Have you ever had a day where it felt like the entire universe was lining up for you, only to watch it explode in your face before you could even register the blast? That's how it started for me. One minute, I was standing in Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, staring up at a glowing gate sign, clutching a platinum class boarding pass like it was a golden ticket to the rest of my life. The next minute, I was the unwilling star of a story I never wanted to tell. Seriously? You want a hook? Try a 17-year-old kid dressed for his future, handcuffed in front of 100 strangers. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because he didn't look like he belonged in the exclusive seat his ticket promised. Yes, that happened. And the cruel twist? They had no idea the boy they were humiliating was the son of the man who literally owned the airline. I was just walking through Terminal B, inhaling that weird mix of Cinnabon and jet fuel. Just another kid on the brink of something big. My name is Kean Sterling, and at 17, my life revolved around blueprints, thrust-to-weight ratios, and dreams that looked like technical drafts in my backpack. My father always told me, stay grounded, remember where you came from. So, even though he ran Apex Air, I insisted on flying premium economy. No private jet, no fanfare. I wanted to feel the pulse of the terminal, to watch a Dreamliner up close as it readied for takeoff. That morning, with the sun pouring through the glass, I pulled out my notebook and started sketching the curve of the wing, lost in the detail. The problem was, I wasn't the only one paying attention. Ms. Vivian Thorne, the 40-something gate agent with the tight, weary expression of someone who'd been overlooked one too many times, spotted me the second I sat down. It didn't matter that I was drawing the aircraft like a proud aviation geek, not like a thief casing the place. In her mind, I fit all the wrong cliches. Young, black, hoodie, sneakers, sitting in the premium area. She murmured to a colleague, keep an eye on the kid in the blue hoodie. Just like that, I was a pre-existing problem in her narrative. When the announcement for Platinum Class boarding came, I was ready. Phone in hand, glowing boarding pass ready to scan. I tried to catch her eye. Just a polite acknowledgement. Vivian Thorne looked at me, then the pass, then back at me with suspicion tightening her face. She launched into an interrogation. Where are you going? For what purpose? I answered, MIT summer program. I saw the disbelief flash in her eyes. The next thing I knew, she was telling me to stand aside for a verification. That word hits differently when you're alone, facing a suddenly silent crowd, all watching to see if you'll blow up. People say you know when things are going sideways. Believe me, I knew. Professor Lena Hayes, a sociologist en route to a conference, watched nearby, phone in hand. She saw the escalation, the way they were framing me as a threat, not a kid with a dream. Security arrived. A burly man with a mustache, Officer Drake, and a younger partner. They already treated me like a suspect. Drake's voice was a low growl. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. I froze, my ticket, my ID, my whole future in my backpack, and suddenly they were snapping handcuffs on me, dragging me through the terminal as strangers stared, some filming, others whispering, "What did he do?" You see the irony? My mind tried to rationalize, tried to believe that if I just explained, it would be fine. It never is. In that windowless room, Officer Drake started, "What's your real name? Who paid for this ticket?" When I said, "My father," he laughed. "And who would that be? Some rapper? A baller?" The poison behind the words wasn't even subtle that I went cold. Arguing was pointless. I demanded a phone call, citing TSA regulations. That got their attention. They allowed me to call my father's assistant, Zara, the only person who could cut through the corporate layers. The apex descends. Upstairs, my father, Mr. Harrison Sterling, was in the middle of a board meeting, about to celebrate a strong quarter, when Zara's emergency message arrived. Code red. The man's presence is something special. He doesn't shout. He just has a way of silencing a room. He stood up, told the entire board to wait, and within minutes he was on the phone, issuing orders like a general in wartime. Call the chief operating officer, the legal team, the head of airport security, prep the helicopter. Then, calm as ever, he spoke to me. "You did nothing wrong. I'm coming. Stay right where you are." Things changed fast. After Zara put Drake on the phone with my father, and the officer realized whose son he'd just handcuffed, his bravado evaporated. They fumbled the cuffs off, muttering about misunderstandings, but the damage was done. My wrist burned, my dignity shredded. That's when the door burst open. My father walked in like a hurricane, flanked by the airport's top brass and his counsel, Marcus Reed. The air grew heavy. My father didn't yell. He didn't need to. He looked Officer Drake in the eye and asked, "Do you have any idea what you have done?" All the arrogance drained from the room. I watched him kneel beside me, checking my wrists, and for a moment, I wasn't news or a problem. I was just his son. Before we left, my father gave orders as if closing a billion-dollar deal. Suspend the gate agent and Officer Drake immediately. Get every frame of video, every statement. We will not let this go. By the time we got home, the story had already exploded. Professor Hayes had filmed everything and sent the video to the press. The footage went viral before I'd even washed the ink off my wrists. Hashtag Justice for Kean trended, and Apex Air stock briefly dipped. Vivian Thorne was fired. Drake was placed on indefinite leave. Suddenly, my pain was a front-page story, but my father wasn't interested in damage control. When the board suggested a public apology and a large check, he shut them down. "We're going to change this system from the inside out." And he did. He invested $50 million into what became the Sterling Initiative. He brought in Professor Hayes to audit every corner of Apex Air. He forced the airport to retrain their security staff, threatening to move the entire company hub if they didn't comply. The goal wasn't just to save a seat. It was to incinerate the old playbook and start over. The Sterling Standard became the new training model, open source for anyone to adopt. Was it easy? Absolutely not. For months, I barely left my room, haunted by the memory of being paraded in cuffs, my future stolen in an instant. But as my father fought to rebuild what had been broken, I realized I could do the same. I started attending initiative meetings, speaking to new hires, telling them what it feels like to have your humanity erased in a moment. My pain turned into purpose. I even helped design software to track patterns of bias in airline flagging reports. Over time, Apex Air's reputation didn't just recover, it improved. Turns out, fixing what's broken is good business. A year later, I was back at Hartsfield-Jackson, finally boarding my flight to MIT. The gate agent looked me in the eye, smiled, and welcomed me aboard. It was a small moment, but it meant everything. I looked at the Dreamliner and knew I'd turned the worst day of my life into the beginning of real change, the final confrontation. But life never stops testing you. 5 years later, I was speaking at a PAC symposium in Washington, D.C., recounting everything we'd built, how turning a crisis into a movement could truly change the world. The applause was still ringing in my ears when I saw a woman in a gray coat, her face lined, her eyes burning. It was Vivian Thorne. Trembling, she grabbed the microphone and poured out years of resentment. How she had lost everything because of me, how she was just following protocol, how justice wasn't justice if it destroyed someone like her. The entire room held its breath, waiting to see if I would hit back. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye and said, "I remember you. I am sorry for your suffering. But my family didn't ruin your life. Your choices did. You saw a threat, not a kid. You chose escalation. The life you have now is the result of those choices, just as the work we do with the Sterling Initiative is the result of mine. That is true accountability." She had nothing left to say. The audience understood, too. Security escorted her out, and for the first time, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I was no longer a victim or a symbol. I was a survivor who had forged pain into power. Listen, the real lesson here isn't about money or headlines. Injustice doesn't hide in the shadows. It sits right there, in plain sight, sometimes in the hands of people convinced they are just following the rules. But when you meet it with resolve, with love, with a refusal to let it pass in silence, you can transform even the harshest karma into something bigger than yourself. My father, and I didn't just apologize, we build a world where it's much harder for something like that to happen again. Comment below, tell me where you're watching from, and let's talk about what true justice looks like when the doors finally open for everyone.